The brain is wired to supply energy only to those functions of the body that are genuinely demanded by real life. Our abilities unfold the moment they become truly necessary. This is a crucial phenomenon. Think of our classmates. Some went to one university, some to another. Many of them promptly forgot almost everything they had studied right after graduation. And why should the brain store useless information if, after finishing medical school, one person went into business and another, having earned a degree as a German translator, ended up teaching yoga? But as soon as that trained doctor lands in a situation where their skills are urgently needed, everything they learned rushes back into awareness. And the linguistics diploma suddenly becomes valuable again when its owner, who hasn't used German for years, finds themselves in Germany. Our unconscious pushes out of memory everything that is unnecessary in the present moment and sustains what is needed. If knowledge of a foreign language becomes truly necessary, we find a way to go abroad and, in 6 months, speak it fluently. Or we find a way to regularly talk with native speakers at home. If it isn't really needed, we can study the language for 15 years and never get anywhere. The brain tends to shove everything irrelevant into a distant drawer. It's no coincidence that there is a famous line often attributed to Albert Einstein: "Education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school." This is a very healthy trait of the brain. It keeps our working memory in good condition, storing there only what is actually required. A person never truly knows what they are capable of. The German philosopher of the first half of the 20th century, Karl Jaspers, who was originally trained as a psychiatrist, in his early works studied the so-called limit situations, Grenzsituationen, in which a person suddenly displays uncharacteristic abilities in extreme conditions, on the edge of mental breakdown. In his view, it is often precisely in such situations that the meaning and purpose of one's existence are revealed. From these and similar ideas, the philosophy of existentialism was born. It treats human existence or existence, as a supreme and unique value. Existence can never be fully pinned down or defined once and for all. A human being is a creature that is constantly developing and is capable at any moment of giving a new answer to the challenges of the situation. Since the Renaissance, people have known that human beings are capable of far more than they usually dare to imagine. The Italian philosopher Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, in his work Oration on the Dignity of Man, argued for the uniqueness of human existence as something defined by our own choice. God, he wrote, created the human being capable of placing himself anywhere on the scale between animal and angel, and only the person themselves knows what they will decide to become. This freedom of choice is the foundation that gives us not only the right, but also the obligation to set ourselves new tasks and to develop new abilities, even though those abilities sometimes reveal themselves fully only in situations of mortal danger, situations we would be better off never reaching. Sometimes a person's abilities break through unexpectedly. We may have no idea that we are talented, yet a particular situation can suddenly awaken something special, something that pleasantly surprises us. So how can you actually assess your own abilities? And should you really try to develop all of them? You already have everything you need. All you have to do is use it. You are capable of anything. It is just that no one has told you this yet. Marcus Aurelius. It is generally believed that every person is unique and has their own natural inclinations. One person is great at selling, another drives a car effortlessly. But what if, by nature, people are gifted in roughly the same way and already carry all the necessary potentials within themselves? And for those potentials to manifest, they simply have to be developed. The concept that attempts to explain where all our knowledge and skills come from is called ancestral memory. Ancestral memory is inherited information about an individual human being. It contains the program for building the human organism in space and time, encoded as a multidimensional image wave code, as well as information about all the people who have ever belonged to this particular human lineage. Only part of this information is encoded at the DNA level. The main part is stored in an information field known as the morphogenetic field. Every person has their own individual morphogenetic field. Information in this field is stored by solitons, unusual waves that can exist for a very long time and are capable of remembering the conditions under which they were excited. The material carrier of the morphogenetic field is the physical vacuum. Throughout a person's life, this field is constantly changing, reflecting the dynamics of their development. In other words, ancestral memory is information stored at the level of a person's individual morphological field. It holds complete information about all that person's ancestors in this lineage, including all their knowledge, skills, and abilities. So it isn't quite correct to say that we don't have the ability for something. Much more often, life simply hasn't yet created situations that would help those abilities reveal themselves, or force them to. The basic capacities are the same for everyone, and we can tap into awareness of them through ancestral memory. In principle, we can develop any ability we choose. As Mary Shelley wrote in Frankenstein, "A mind of moderate capacity which closely pursues one study must infallibly arrive at great proficiency in that study." But in real life, we usually have no need to awaken every possible talent. That's why it makes sense to focus on what is truly necessary and useful. When the time comes, the specific ability you need will emerge and unfold on its own. The main thing is to understand this and not rush to conclusions like, "I don't know how to do this, so I won't even try." Every person is unique, but everyone has possibilities, knowledge, and abilities. No one is deprived. The human psyche and human behavior are, without doubt, fundamentally different from the psyche and behavior of animals. Over many centuries, the evolution of animals' conditioned reflexes, the higher nervous activity of human beings arose and formed a completely new system of specifically human activity. Its defining feature, unlike in animals, is the presence of consciousness. Thanks to consciousness, the way animals mentally register natural stimuli, as a sum of immediate signals of food, defense, and so on, has been replaced in humans by a holistic perception of the surrounding world in concepts created by the history and needs of human society. In a general biological sense, human consciousness emerged when the raw struggle for survival and the purely consumptive behavior of animals were gradually replaced by social forms of life and creative, purposeful labor. It was labor and life in a community that left a deep imprint on every form of human activity, radically reshaped it, and brought into being a new mental category unknown to animals: consciousness. For example, the tree-dwelling lifestyle of our anthropoid ancestors was largely shaped by the development of limbs capable of grasping branches and fruit with their fingers. When they came down to the ground, their hind limbs evolved into legs, and their forelimbs began to refine their manipulative functions much more intensively. The development of the hand, in turn, had a powerful impact on the evolution of the higher functions of the brain. Actions carried out with the hands marked the beginning of new, more effective forms of adaptive behavior, in which broken branches, stones, and a variety of objects began to be used to obtain food and to fight off enemies. No one can know in advance what they are capable of. To achieve what you desire, you have to work long and hard. Charles Delint. The information generated by such activity and the signals that entered the brain as objects were explored in the hands drew new neural structures into the processing of information and refined those regions of the brain responsible for sensory, kinesthetic functions. On this basis, associative functions arose that began to organize behavior. Another crucial precondition for the development of higher brain functions was living in groups. As sensory-motor coordination grew more complex and multiple feedback loops formed in the interaction between individuals, complex forms of analytic synthetic brain activity emerged. In the end, they led to the formation of consciousness. Thanks to consciousness, humans gained the ability to compare, experiment, and arrive at new conclusions in their minds to construct a plan, and then to let that plan guide their actions. If this content resonates with you, hit subscribe button. Thank you for your support. So, in the course of evolution and the development of the animal world, new abilities do not appear out of nowhere. They unfold at certain stages of the animal world's development only when they truly become necessary. In later research, neurophysiologists established that in some animals, elementary mental activity appears when they are confronted with a new, non-standard situation, and it manifests even in the absence of any prior training. The capacity for this kind of activity is embedded in the animal's hereditary program and allows them to make urgent, unconventional decisions. Human abilities, as a rule, remain folded up, latent, until our actual existence forces them to reveal themselves. This is a general phenomenon, which in philosophy appears as the category of entelechy, introduced into science by Aristotle. Figuratively speaking, it is the potential of a grain of seed, ready to sprout and become an ear of wheat. When you find yourself in a hopeless situation, all your abilities reveal themselves in full force and the impossible becomes possible. Clive Barker. We were captivated by Aristotle's doctrine of matter and form, by matter as the potential and possible, straining toward form in order to be fulfilled, by form as the unmoved source of movement, soul, spirit, the soul of being itself, driving it towards self-realization and completion in phenomena. In other words, by entelechy, a fragment of eternity that vitalizes an individual body, penetrates what is organic, shapes it and directs its activity, mindful of its ultimate purpose and concerned for its fate. I think I understand what Aristotle meant by entelechy. It is the angel of the individual, the genius of his life, in whose all-knowing guidance he can confidently trust. Thomas Mann, Dr. Faustus. In religious thought, the sudden awakening of new spiritual and even physical abilities in a human being is seen as part of the very structure of God's order and design. Sacred teachings say that spiritual capacities are revealed in a person at the moment when he or she is truly ready for them. According to the Quran, the Prophet Muhammad only began to hear the voice of the angel Gabriel, bringing him the scripture at the moment when a new revelation from Allah was meant to descend to the earth. The Quran says, "Say, whoever is an enemy to Gabriel, he it is who, by Allah's leave, has brought this Quran down upon your heart, confirming what was before it, a guidance and glad tidings for the believers." And the first words of that revelation were, "Read in the name of your Lord, who created man from a clinging clot." Before this, he had never heard the speech of an angel. He lived the life of an ordinary man. In the same way, all knowledge and all capacities that are hidden with Allah are disclosed only at their appointed time. The Quran says, "He is the knower of the unseen. He does not disclose his unseen to anyone, except a messenger whom he chooses. Then he appoints guards before him and behind him, so that he may know that they have conveyed the messages of their Lord. And he encompasses whatever is with them and has counted all things in number." Thus the Most High opens for prophets and messengers a share of the knowledge of the unseen, so that they can warn people, wake them up, and call them to change their lives. This is a message for mankind, that they may be warned by it, and know that He is only one God, and that those of understanding may take heed. Quran 14:52. As Mark Twain is often quoted, "You can live half your life and never know what you are capable of. Yet that capacity has been with you all along, just waiting for the chance to show itself." Every human being is endowed by the Lord with unique, individual gifts. Through these gifts, a person worships and glorifies Allah, and expresses gratitude to Him for everything that has been given. In this way, a person carries out his or her mission in this world, fulfilling the divine plan for their life. Foretelling the apostles their fate and describing their future, Jesus Christ says in the Gospel, "Be on your guard. They will hand you over to courts, beat you in synagogues, and you will be brought before governors and kings because of me, as a testimony to them. And when they lead you away and hand you over, do not worry beforehand about what you will say, and do not rehearse your words. But whatever is given to you in that hour, speak that, for it will not be you speaking, but the Holy Spirit in you. To the anxious question, but how can we, simple people, possibly convince the wise? The Lord commands them to be brave and not to worry about it. When we are about to speak among the faithful, we should prepare our defense in advance, as the Apostle Peter urges. But when we stand before raging crowds and kings, the Lord himself promises his power so that we will not be afraid. To confess the faith is our task, but to defend it wisely is God's gift. And indeed, during the persecutions of Christians in the Roman Empire, when confessors were brought to trial and the accusations began, many who had been completely ordinary, unnoticed people just the day before, suddenly showed an incredible strength of spirit, composure, and gift of speech. At times, even the executioners could not withstand it and themselves crossed over to the side of the accused. Christ commanded his disciples to go and preach the gospel to all the nations of the earth, Matthew 28:19. For this mission, on the appointed day, an event took place with them that is described in the Acts of the Apostles. When the day of Pentecost had fully come, they were all together in one place. And suddenly there came a sound from heaven, like a rushing mighty wind, and it filled the whole house where they were sitting. Then there appeared to them tongues as of fire, which separated and came to rest on each of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other tongues, as the Spirit enabled them to speak. When this sound was heard, a crowd came together in bewilderment, because each one heard them speaking in his own language, and all were amazed and marveled. A gifted person is gifted in every field. Loughnan. The Apostle Paul speaks of a dialogue he had with God. But he said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." In other words, when the time comes, that is when your full strength will be revealed. Isidore of Pelusium explains this passage as follows. How was power made perfect in weakness? I will say it briefly. The apostles, though scourged, overcame those who scourged them. Though persecuted, they prevailed over their persecutors. And as they died, they brought the living to faith. For this reason the apostles spoke these words. This was a new kind of victory, to conquer through the opposite, never to be defeated by anything, and to rush into struggles as if the outcome of those struggles were truly in one's own hands. The Lord helps at the right time, in the right place. The Israeli Kabbalist Michael Lightman, founder and head of the International Kabbalah Academy, Bnei Baruch, and the Ashlag Research Institute of Kabbalah, sees one of the highest purposes of studying Kabbalah in the acquisition of extraordinary abilities that awaken when a person, while still living in this earthly world, begins to sense the spiritual worlds. In truth, he says, the task of studying Kabbalah is to feel the spiritual worlds while you are still in this world, to experience them fully across the entire expanse of creation, to gain such perceptions that neither birth nor death has power over them, to step outside of time, to reach in one of your life cycles a state in which you can live simultaneously in all worlds, completely merging with the higher force, fully comprehending the Creator. In this lies the ultimate goal of human existence in this world. Happiness excludes old age. Whoever keeps the ability to see beauty never grows old. Buddhism sees the path to awakening the inner capacities needed for spiritual growth in meditation. Meditation is a path to stillness and detachment, but it demands serious work from us. As we focus our attention, we begin to find ourselves, revealing new depths and truths within our own nature. At first, it seems incredibly difficult to turn away from the constant stream of external events. The psyche resists. It pushes back either through restlessness and a surge of activity, or through heaviness and drowsiness. Yet if we persist, a kind of second wind opens, a new subtle ability. The method at the heart of this practice is very simple. Over an extended period of time, we keep our attention on the flow of the breath, on the rhythm of inhalations and exhalations. And the moment we notice that the mind has wandered, we calmly, without irritation, return it to the breath. As we continue to practice, our attention becomes deeper and more stable. The mind wanders less and less. By steadily bringing our focus back to breathing, we begin to feel how our once scattered energies gather into one, like a herd of animals driven back into a single flock. This experience of a unified mind brings an exceptional inner peace. We feel increasingly serene and relaxed, and the mind gradually clears and becomes bright. Although it's still widely believed that human physical and mental abilities are strictly limited, modern scientific research forces us to reconsider this view. Psychologists Ulrich Weger and Loughnan asked two groups of people to answer the same set of questions. The first group was told that before each question, the correct answer would flash briefly on the screen. The flash would be so fast that they wouldn't consciously register it, but their subconscious would still be able to pick it up. The second group was told that the flicker between questions was nothing more than a simple signal indicating the transition to the next question. In reality, those brief flashes had absolutely no meaningful content at all. The results were fascinating. The people who believed they were seeing the correct answers performed significantly better on the test. Their assumption that they were reading the right answers helped them actually do better. In many cases, our belief that our abilities are limited becomes a limiting factor in itself. Yet, there is plenty of evidence that our mindset and thoughts can expand both our physical and mental capacities. We're used to thinking that many things depend solely on mechanical processes, but that's not quite true. Let's look at an experiment conducted by psychologist Ellen Langer and her colleagues. According to common belief, fighter pilots must have excellent vision. The researchers placed people into the mental state of a military pilot by letting them use a flight simulator. The simulator was a real cockpit with all the necessary instruments. The cockpit was mounted on hydraulic lifts that imitated the plane's movements and maneuvers. Participants were given military uniforms, seated in the pilot's chair, and asked to perform simple maneuvers. Their vision was tested both before and during the flight. The control group went through the same vision tests, but in their case, the simulator remained inactive. The results? Absolutely remarkable. The first group's vision improved during the simulated flight. They literally started to see better. The second group, those who simply sat in the inactive cockpit and took the same tests, showed no such improvement. A similarly striking result came from an experiment in the early 1990s by Dr. Álvaro Pascual-Leone. He discovered that a person's ability to play the piano could improve even through simply visualizing themselves playing the instrument. Climb higher and leap into the abyss. Your wings will appear as you fall. Ray Bradbury. All of this suggests that in certain situations and with the right mental attitude, our physical and mental abilities can unfold in new ways and improve dramatically. When a person is truly ready and genuinely wants something, their abilities will rise to meet that desire and help them reach what they're aiming for.